You ever notice how trouble comes quiet at first? Just a low rumble under your boots, like the land's trying to tell you something before all hell breaks loose. That's how it started for me out by the creek at dawn. The air sharp with fresh earth and the kind of hope that only lives in the morning. My family's watched over this land for 100 years, each generation, passing down the deed with calloused hands and a silent promise. I never thought I'd end up defending it with more paperwork than a courthouse clerk, but I guess life's got a mean sense of humor. Let me back up a sec. It was a bad spring storms tearing up the bank's roots, dangling out over nothing, the creek threatening to swallow the footpath where neighborhood kids like to race bikes. I did what anybody with half a spine would. Fired up my old Kamasu bulldozer, called the county, got the all clear, no permit needed on private land, then started hauling rocks to shore up the bank before someone broke their neck. And that's when the circus rolled in. White Tahoe Neighborhood Security Patrol stenciled on the door like they were deputized by the president himself. Two guys in matching polos and enough attitude to choke a mule. One had aviators, the other a clipboard heavy enough to knock sense into anybody except himself. They started barking about ordinances threatening fines, acting like I'd brought in a hazmat team and was dumping chemicals instead of saving the creek. I told them straight up, my land, my rules. Sheriff's number's on speed dial if you want to make a day of it. Didn't matter. By lunchtime, the HOA had my inbox stacked, cease and desist, fines, mandatory hearing. I sipped my coffee, read every threat twice, and almost laughed. See, what they didn't know, what they never bothered to learn, was that I'd spent years with the Army Corps of Engineers. I know land easements, water rights. More important, I had a deed that covered not just my house, but the whole damn creek, the woods, even the watershed itself. HOA had been building trails and benches out here for years, never once asked. I let it go, figured life's too short. But blocking my bulldozer, threatening my family's legacy, that was a line. Now I'm not a hothead. I moved the dozer up the ridge, spent the afternoon walking my property line with a GPS and a stack of old photos, every marker right where it ought to be. That night, with the sun dyeing gold over the water, I spread my grandfather's deed on the table, tracing his signature with my thumb. 1948. The clause, everybody ignores full rights and stewardship of the waters in all banks. County had confirmed it back when they tried to rezone. Just to be sure, I called the recorder's office for a certified copy and dug out old permits, drainage work, regional water board approval. I was loaded for bear, and I knew this wasn't over. The next day, the HOA came back louder. 3 cars this time, Karen Prescott herself in designer flats and sunglasses, flanked by her security guys and a camera crew. Like this was some reality show for control freaks. Karen started in smooth as a snake, telling me my bulldozer was within 50 feet of a community waterway. I told her flat check the deed, not community anything. She smirked, read from her script, and served me a stack of violations so thick I could have used them to level the dozer. You're escalating things, she said. I just told her, no, you are. Then I told them all to get off my land. Inside I was burning. I dug out every record my grandfather ever saved, land plats, titles, even the letter when they reaffirmed our boundaries after the subdivision was built. Called my attorney Sharon Sharp as attack and meaner than a rattlesnake in court. I walked the property again, snapping photos of every HOA sign, every marker, every tree they'd stuck their badge on. When I dropped those docs on Sharon's desk, she read through them, nodded slow, and said, "You don't just own the creek. You own every tributary, every drop that touches this watershed." I knew it, but hearing her say it, that was something. We filed a declaratory statement with the county, hit the HOA with a demand to remove all their junk off my land. It wasn't just about paperwork anymore. This was memory, my wife planting wildflowers before cancer took her. My grandfather hacking these trails out by hand. Me teaching my son to fish before he shipped out. This land is blood, not just dirt. Of course, the HOA doubled down. New email, urgent environmental compliance, claiming their revised jurisdiction trumped a legal deed. They even took my land survey, slapped their logo on it, and called it theirs. I forwarded it to Sharon. Your move. Drove straight to the county clerk, sat with Patrice, the records tech, and read through everything. Deeds, water rights. Even an old newspaper clipping about my grandfather testifying in the 70s. That's when I found the big one, a contract with the state, making my family the legal custodians of the watershed, not just owners, stewards. I nearly laughed out loud. Next HOA meeting, I showed up, room full of retirees, garden club warriors, couples already regretting their mortgage. Karen played Queen Bee, never said my name, but circled the issue with enough spin to make you dizzy. I stood up, laid it out. That land, it's mine. The creek, the trails, the trees check the deed. Some folks looked shocked. One woman nodded like she'd always known. Karen tried to grab the mic, but I held on, told them the injunction was filed, the county and state were aware, and if the board didn't back down, next stop was the courtroom. Her face cracked. First time she looked scared. After that, things moved fast. I dug deeper, found the old stewardship covenant, my grandfather's name and fountain pen, a trust binding us to protect this land. Teach respect, not just own it. Sharon read it and said, "If anything, the HOA should pay you." I finally laughed, quiet but real. I built 3 signs. Big bold Hayes Family Trust. Watershed trespassers prosecuted. Nailed them up at the trailhead, the bridge behind the HOA clubhouse where their picnic tables crept onto my woods. Next morning, HOA patrol shows up, more guards, a lawyer, even a drone buzzing the creek. The lawyer Bellamy strutted up, waving a cease and desist like it was holy writ. I handed him the notarized deed, then the restraining order from county court, barring the HOA from touching anything on my side. They paled. One guard tried the dozer anyway. Sheriff and DNR officers pulled up right on cue. They read out the fines, marked violations, and by sunset, the whole crew was gone. I climbed back into my bulldozer and finished the job because saving the creek matters more than winning a standoff. That's not the end, though. With every victory, the HOA got quieter. A new interim president wrote me a letter surrendering their claims, paying out legal fees and damages, not hush money, just their attempt at closure. Their signs vanished. Their benches disappeared. I put up my own Hayes Family Watershed, protected since 1948. I started giving creek tours to school kids, teaching them what a real watershed looks like, how cattails clean the water, how a story outlasts a fence. Folks sent letters from all over asking how I fought back, what rights they had. Sharon helped me draft a free guide, Know Your Rights. And just like that, the fight grew bigger than me. The county launched an audit board. Members started resigning. First the treasurer, then the VP. Then the whistleblower who sent me emails showing Karen knew she was lying about property lines. When the subpoena hit Karen for misuse of funds, she packed up and left town. Closure, but not revenge. Then came the news vans, the interviews, the letters from people who'd lost to their own HOAs. I realized this wasn't just about me. It was about standing ground so nobody else got trampled. By the time a new board took over, led by Ellen, a quiet librarian once fined for planting wildflowers, the mood had changed. "We're not here to bang tables," she said. "We're here to rebuild trust." Yeah, I almost smiled. After the dust settled, I turned the creek into something more, a classroom, a refuge, a promise to the next generation. Kids came to test the water plant grasses, listen to stories about otters and storms and wildflowers. We built benches from reclaimed wood, started monthly watershed. Wednesdays even won a grant to build a little shelter and trail lighting. Neighbors who once scowled at me started showing up to help. And one day while cleaning up after a picnic, I found a note. "We thought we owned the land, but you reminded us we're only guests. Thank you for showing us how to listen." That was it right there. Ownership isn't about fences, it's about stewardship. When the noise fades, what's left is roots and kids learning there's something worth defending. Karen's final resignation was a whisper, not a bang. The state audit confirmed it all: fake memos, misused funds, bogus environmental claims. The new board didn't want power, just peace. At a community lunch under the oaks, folks thanked me not for fighting, but for holding the line. You gave us a map back, Gregory said. I hadn't set out to lead, just to keep from being trampled. Sometimes that's enough. Now, when I walk the creek at sunrise, boots crunching through dew, I think of my grandfather, my wife, my son Jack, home from overseas and ready to take up the torch. The land's safe now, protected by law and memory, and the kind of truth no HOA can ever overwrite. It's a conservation easement now out of reach of every future committee. The creek runs free, the trees grow wild, and I walk these woods not as a victor, but as a servant to something older than rules, a legacy that asks only this: stand where you are, know what you protect, and never let noise drown out what matters. So let me ask you, when your moment comes, will you stand your ground? Or will you let the noise win? Because sometimes justice is just one person refusing to move. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Share your story, your fight, or your own quiet stand for what's right. We're all guests here. Might as well leave it better than we found it.